Boards. Games. Board games. We might be talking about UK Games Expo, but we're not gonna shout. This is up where that we went. Lots of money and time was spent, and laughs were had, and we were glad because that's what we wanted to elicit. And our games, I guess, weren't bad because we managed to show them to folk. And we had a bit of a laugh and we had a bit of a joke. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good whatever it is, wherever you are. 10 a.m. is UK time. Time for Busy Beats and Board Game Bladder, episode 1001, UK Games Expo debrief with Jessica Metheringham. Thank you for joining me, Jess. How are you today?
Hello. I'm okay. Still relatively tired. Monday, I think, was the day for mainly sleeping, and yeah, feeling okay. Monday was take the van back, then sleep. In fact, that was one of the most challenging bits of the entire weekend. Driving
sleeping,
this, no,
taking the
driving
van back.
Well, taking the van into various places. It took us a while to work out where the reverse gear on the van was. So it's always fun. We should have asked that before we left the hire place, but never mind. We found it with some Googling. So
I have some slightly bad news that I would like to ask you to kind of refresh yourself because of the crackling.
oh no, I'll refresh myself.
But while you're doing that, I will talk about recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights, recent highlights, playing games and other delights, recent highlights. So whilst today is meant to be about UK Games Expo, and obviously UK Games Expo was a recent highlight, I thought I'd spend 5 minutes at the start of the show talking about what's happened since then. So since the end of UK Games Expo, by which I mean since 6 o'clock-ish. So we had packed out, we went to a lovely dinner at Las Iguanas. A whole bunch of us stayed over until Monday, Tuesday even. And I think Monday I played a good number of games. I played, let's go through all of them. Jumanji, do you know this one? It's a roll and move, but every so often you need to roll dice very quickly to try and get to symbol that's on the card. And the cards have this gimmicky red thing, so you slide it in, and hey, that's what you're revealing. But the gimmick doesn't actually serve any purpose because it's not like you've got them face up and then suddenly they're revealed. It's just you flip it over, and then it's like, oh, now you're going to put it in here for an extra step. It feels completely pointless, if I'm being honest. Mm-hmm. And it feels like, yeah, they could, I don't know. Also, like the speed dice rolling, that was kind of fun, but like the rest of it, it's just not a game for me. It's fundamentally roll and move, and some of the spaces are literally too small for the pieces to stand on, which is a bit of a problem with the production, thing. I also play The Pretender. Have you played anything from Gamely Games? They also made Sound Delicious. Sound Delicious is like charades, but you've got sounds rather than anything else. But the things that you're emulating are things that make sounds. For example, a basketball or a helicopter or was a real one, or a game of snooker. That was a hard one. There's easy, medium, hard. And that's definitely interesting. Mike liked the fact that the noisemakers always got the choice of two, but it was like the skill is basically how can you convey this thing, but it's interesting because when I think about Pictionary are kind of not just emulating the thing. You're not drawing the perfect depiction. You're trying to just get the things together. And hello, Mike. It was lovely to see you. This is Mike, who I played Jumanji with.
Hey.
But, what I feel is like when it's something that you're being more inventive, like Pictionary or I mean, I'm obviously biased. What's a game about whimsical creatures or serious real creatures or comical creatures and trying to identify them off just makes noises. It leads to more creativity, and that's my feeling. We played a couple of rounds of The Pretender, and also we played Unmatched. Have you played Unmatched, or have you heard anything about this one?
I have not played it, but I have heard. Which Unmatched did you play? Because there's multiples of them. Which
I
one
mean,
was
the
it?
whole idea is that you can
Yeah.
literally play a T-Rex versus a genie, or you could play
Yeah.
Squirrel Girl versus Bruce Lee. So they can be
You
literally
play
unmatched.
Little Red Riding Hood versus a werewolf, I think one of them, or maybe it's Little Red Riding Hood versus Bigfoot or something. So it's something completely,
Yeah,
you're
it's meant
matching
to
these
be
completely
bonkers. It's
random
meant to,
characters.
and then I think there were like two new things, and they've got this interesting business model where they say, yeah, we've got an excessive number of games, and so we are going to retire them occasionally. So we've decided that we're going to have about 10 in print at any time. And I think the characters that we played were I played the genie. Alan played Houdini, which is from the same set. It's Houdini versus the genie, and Jack played Squirrel Girl. I had ranged attacks, which felt really strong, and I was able to move faster. And I will say we did start off ganging up on Jack because Jack knew the game best. But also, I was slightly advantaged by the fact that I thought everyone had done this, but I did a quick look through all the things. And Robert says, "Morning. I didn't think there were any more BBBB streams. I've come to listen to the UK Games Expo debrief. You'll notice this is episode 1001. I'm not sure what I'm doing. I might do one every week, but it was definitely the last daily stream, was what I wrote. So
No
I'm
more
not going
daily
to
ones,
resume daily
but there
streaming
will be
anytime."
Bez streams. We can't get rid of you, Bez. We love you. We want you to stay.
Aww. Um, but yeah, so Unmatched, I do really like it, and obviously I'm biased because I won that. But I just feel like even though I won, I don't feel like I made that many cool decisions. Like I felt like there was a little bit of okay, which of these cards do I get rid of for my extra action? That card management is interesting, but I still felt mainly at the whims of what my opponents did and what my cards were. I didn't feel as much agency as I would like, and I feel like I would have to learn my cards a lot better for me to feel as much agency as I typically like from a game. And then I came back yesterday. I'm just going to say I was feeling a bit sad and slightly depressed, and I was like, oh, but I had arranged to have a night out. By which I mean I don't mean a night out, I mean a night in with my friend, where I cycled over an hour away to see Chris and McCall, and we had a chat, and I like griped about um, everything I wanted to gripe about. Then we chatted about everything, and I showed Chris my photos, and Chris was, "Oh, there's we Tor," and because they know each other, and we did play a game about auctioning cubes after winning an auction to become the auctioneer, which they weren't so big fan of, and I won by a massive margin. And then we also played two games of my friend Ellie Dix's Strike, Spare, Steal, which is a real-time add things up to 10, which we had a lot of fun with. But that made me feel good, and I think it's really important for me, at least, after a big convention like UK Games Expo, to make sure that I'm not alone. Because if I had been, I think I would have just been eating chocolate and watching videos and getting a bit sad, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I can see that. It's a bit of a, when you go from being surrounded by thousands of people every day to, to just being by yourself, it's a bit of a shock there. Because you spent days, in this big crowded hall. So, yeah.
100%. So, what are some of your recent highlights? And to Robert and Mike, what have you been up to since after UK Games Expo? Because I saw both of you there. I mean, Mike, for those who don't know, was one of my helpers, and Robert, I saw one evening. What was it, like Friday evening? I think. Like, anyway, we saw each other briefly. It was lovely to see you.
Friday or Saturday, I said hi to Robert, which was lovely. Talking about his next game, about the Beeching Report, which was interesting, and that's actually, that set me off thinking. Okay, how did people protest in different ways? Because Robert's game is about that. So I was like, oh, okay, right. Let's have that thought there, because I'd like to help on that. Oh, since UK Games Expo, I have been doing a lot of sleeping. Yesterday, I went into London for a democracy event in the House of Lords, which it was very nice to be in the House of Lords again. It would have been a highlight had the Wi-Fi been working properly and we not spent half of the meeting trying to get people online to actually, to be part of the meeting. But apart from that, it was fine. But UK Games Expo itself was great. I enjoyed lots of things. I brought home some games, particularly the button shy games. I've had a lot of fun with those because I really like a small game like that. And I played Ahead in the Clouds, which is a 2-player button shy game with my husband, and he enjoyed it, even though he's a heavier gamer, but he still enjoyed a quick 18 card game. So it was all good.
That sounds lovely. I think that we should maybe take a step back, and Robert says you will be getting an email soon.
Yep.
And maybe talk about UK Games Expo. I mean, firstly, what is UK Games Expo? Just for those people who've never seen this show before. I mean, if you've ever seen this show, then I guess you probably know what it is. But it is the biggest show about board games in the UK. It's one of the bigger ones in the world. I mean, it's not as big as even though they don't count this like Festival International de Jeux. It's of a vaguely similar scale to Tokyo Game Market. It's about 1/10 the size of Gen Con or Spiel. I mean, that might be exaggerating. I mean, Spiel, I think, is 250, so it's only about 1/5 the size of Spiel.
Yeah, I mean, so I haven't been to Spiel since 2015. I went to Essen in 2015, and there were 5 halls that year, maybe 6. I can't quite remember. We only spent some time in some of them. But it feels as though UK Games Expo is, gaining slowly, but it's looking more and more like that every year.
And for those who aren't within the UK, just to give a very quick analysis, you've got one big convention, 3, maybe 4 medium conventions, which are Dragonmeet, Tabletop Scotland, Aircon, and Tabletop Gaming Live, if it runs again. And then you've got which are maybe a couple of thousand, and then you've got a whole bunch of smaller conventions, which are anywhere up to 500 people typically. But so is that enough information about what it is? I think we've explained what it is, right? There's traders, there's seminars, there's events, there's the dark room. I went there for selling. Why did you go there, Jess? Why were you even there?
Basically selling. So it is mainly a trade exhibition. Bez used the word show, which doesn't speak to me. It's something which I hadn't heard.
I don't think we're going to get to. Let's not get into that discussion.
Let's not get into that. But it's a trade fair. So it is trading halls primarily, with a fair amount of open gaming, some fringe events on the side. So so some conventions are mainly events and panels. This is mainly the trade exhibition. That's the big thing here.
And it is a public thing, but at the same time, it's a lot more of an event than Spiel. Every part of the thing has been paid for by the exhibitors. Actually, that's not entirely true. There is a preview section at Spiel that you can be part of, and they do also have some seminars, but those parts are not really open to the public. So every part that's generally open to the public has been paid for by someone. At UK Games Expo, there's the bring and buy, which is slightly controversial, where some people say, oh, there's so many problems with this, let's get rid of it. But I like the fact that it's this kind of scrappy thing. People know the risks, and don't take like something that's your dearest possession and is worth hundreds of pounds. Take something that's your just trying to get rid of, and good for you if you make some money and some of it goes to charity. That's brilliant. And I love the fact that there are people doing tournaments, there's people doing RPGs, and there's all sorts of talks, and there is a stage. They do have they try to encourage cosplay, but I don't think there's that much cosplay, especially not when I compare it to Comic Con, which I went to 2 weeks ago, by which I mean a week and a half, and that was, I would say, almost 35% of people probably were in cosplay at Comic Con, which is like more than one in thirds, I would say. If not in full cosplay, at least they'd made some sort of effort by having like fancy gloves or like some sorts of cool cape, or like it looks like they were doing something, if you know what I mean, special with their clothes. Whereas most people in UK Games Expo are just like, okay, this is a family event and I'm wandering around. But I do like things. And quick overview, Robert says there are so many people I wanted to speak to, or maybe only spoke to for literally minutes. When I went by the stands, they were busy demoing and selling, so I didn't want to disturb. And I do appreciate that, actually. You know what? If there's someone who says, "Oh, I didn't see you," and I didn't even see their face, that's a bit sad. But if I at least spent 10 seconds seeing you, for me, if you want a demo, then absolutely come and have a demo. But if all you want is to have a chat, we can do that another time. And that sounds really harsh, but that's the truth of it.
That's entirely how it was for me this year as well. We were selling and demoing so much that, while I did have chats with people, they were quite short chats, and there were, 2 or 3 people. Chris from Unfringed, I think it was literally, he came by, said, "Hi, I'm Chris," and I was like, "Oh, I'm Jess, we haven't, met in person before," and I think that was the extent of our interaction, friendly waves, because, we were absolutely rammed at the stand at that point. So, so it can be really difficult to meet people, and that's why I think some of the, for me, Games Expo is more about demoing your game to the public, whereas something like Aircon, I find that at Aircon there's more time to network with other designers, and I really like that. Network might seem like a silly word, but just having those conversations, I really value it, and I think that for me this year there wasn't very much time for that, and it was a real shame.
And Mike says, I was so happy to see my wife in bed after 11 hours in an airport, and I'm so sorry for all your delays. That really sounded horrible. And Robert
Which airport
says,
was it? Was it at least the airport that was there? Was it at least Birmingham Airport?
I believe it was Birmingham Airport getting back home. And Robert says, I've known Jackson and Paul, who were selling Flick Fleet, very well. I managed a quick conversation before halls opened, but I don't want to stop people selling. Thank you. And that's the thing. Like, I do love talking to people. And I was actually thinking this morning that I might start not a daily stream, but some sort of non-public regular conversation, if you know what I mean. Like a kind of have a Calendly and say, hey, if you want to chat, then let's chat in the mornings and on my time, because I do like chatting to people, and having you here, Jess, is lovely, and having Robert and Mike actually tuning in, and I see there's a couple of lurkers, and that's also nice, but it's the conversation that gets me going. I was going to flick through a whole bunch of photographs whilst
whilst telling us what they're like. Yeah, let's do that.
I think there's going to be. I hope that there's no super embarrassing photos from anyone. There might be some memes or things that are looking a little bit. There we go. I think I'm at the start. Pictures via Facebook. Okay. So yes, that's someone telling me that in a bind for £10. I mean, it's nice that it's retained its value. So I think that I sold that originally for £8, I want to say. So I think originally the
passage of time has, caused it to go up in value. Excellent. We like
yeah,
that.
and it's second hand. So then, yep, Josie, this was our chocolate tasting, and one
Ooh.
of my lessons is that there is too much of a good thing. I've decided that next year I'm definitely going to have fewer than 17 chocolates. Josie reckons 15 is the correct number. I mean, I think we had 34. I brought about 32 different types of chocolate, so more bars than that. And then Mike brought a couple of types, and I think there were three more types from the Netherlands. So we had about 37, 38 different types of chocolate. And the objective was to go through all of them on Thursday, and we only managed 29. And by the end, everyone was like, "Oh, this is a bit much." And I think after 17, people wanted a break. So what I've decided is, next year we're going to have the slightly better ones. There's me, there's lovely Mike,
More chocolate. Hey. Oh,
Udo.
you took a photo with the dodo. Excellent. Oh,
No,
cosplayers.
I didn't. This is Jane and Mike.
Yeah.
Lots of these photos, I will
assumed
say,
it might be you taking the photo, but clearly not.
this is the lovely Dave Salisbury of Fanboy Free, who also joined us. And we had, of course, our 2 p.m. events. So for those who don't know, every day at 2 p.m., I try to showcase one of my games. I teach it, I get a big crowd playing. And for Yogi, what we did is I think we had one round where everyone got some points, and I think 2 people were eliminated and 1 person was a finalist. And then we carried on, and then eventually there were 2 people who were 2 or 3 people competing against each other, and everyone else was coming up with these weird rules from the guru cards, where it's wild cards where all your opponents can choose things for you. And oh yeah, we had a lovely. This was actually at the hostel, which I did like. It's not as nice as it was in 2019, I have to admit, and I think. But yeah, do you do 2 p.m. events? Do you do anything like that as a thing to bring people to your stand at a particular time?
We don't. So of course we were showing a significantly longer game. We didn't. We found that simply having 2 demo tables, that's all we could fit on our stand, because we went for 4 meters this year, and we might go for a bit more next year. We found that actually that was, I'm not sure we would have had anything specific to do at an event.
I could have done one of your Roland's color things, but don't do it at 2 p.m.
That's true. I won't do it at 2 p.m. I think that perhaps next year, or perhaps at Aircon, which is in March, then we might experiment with, with having things like that where we've got actual set times. This year, it was very simply, here's Library Labyrinth, and we mixed it up a little bit between whether people wanted to sit down and play a whole game, which takes about half an hour, with just showing them the simple run through of it.
I mean, I started this tradition at one of the Uncon events in Kent, and it's become a thing which I really like. So these are images from Saturday's events, which was for a game about creatures, some comical, some seriously surreal, and trying to identify them after some makes noises. Well, I hadn't actually seen these properly, and I do like the vibe of it. It does feel like a show. It does feel like an event. It feels like, hey, we're all coming together. We're all there's a reason for people to be at the stand right now. And if you want to come for a demo, you can come anytime. Of course you can. And just for comparison, I had a 10 by 2 meter stand. Plus, I had a little bit of space because I technically get the corner, but I get a good deal on this particular space, and there's a little bit of a secret space because I'm right beside the wall. So that means that with my banners, I can get everyone to put their personal belongings behind. So that definitely helps. And I think we had about 5 or 6 demo tables by the end.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think you've worked out, so over several years, you've worked out precisely what works for you. And, this is, these are popular events. Oh, I like that. A nice little video of that. But yeah, these are very much performances. They're interactive. People are there doing it. It's a great thing. I like.
Someone at Spiel said, because at Spiel I didn't have a stand in 2022, but I did go somewhere between I think 1:30 and 3:30, and so I could run my 2 p.m. events. And someone started coming over to multiple of them and said, "Oh, I really like what you're doing here. It's kind of like you're running it's like a game show." And I think that's true. Like, I feel like there has to be some extra commentary. I feel like people have to be aware, yes, you are going to be the center of attention if you're coming here. Yes, it's a friendly contest, but one of the people who came on Sunday said that they'd come second place in last year. And so they wanted to come, and just for the record, we are all pointing to the winners in these triumphant pictures. But on Sunday, someone said, "Oh, I came back and I wanted to try and win my title to try and do even better this year." So, let me take this down. So there
gone
is
on to other things.
definitely the idea of, okay, what's going on here? Actually, let me move on to this, which seems to be, I think, is this Sunday? I don't know what's going. Oh no, that's some cute comical noises again.
Yeah,
And,
I think that might be.
there we go. That's
nice.
the Sunday event, which falls for a game about quickly grabbing creatures that are totally different and counting your turnips, beetroots, and then radishes. And I think I have this is in a nice kind of way where, okay, everyone plays, then everyone plays again. I add up the scores, and then I try to put the better players together, and it sounds harsh, but the worst players together, just so everyone's competing well. And then at this point, 1 or 2 people get through to the finals, and I say, okay, this is definitely the finalist. But who else will be the finalist? It's whoever wins. And if anyone messes up, you're totally out. And I try to change the rules slightly. I try to bring in the radishes, which does mix it around a little bit. And there seemed to be an energy, and that's why I go to UK Games Expo to facilitate fun. And for me, this is probably the highlight of the whole weekend. Just running the thing, people having fun, people smiling, and people being engaged because of something I made, because of my performance, and yeah.
Yeah. No, I can see that. That's cool. Excellent.
And there we go. There's the 2 finalists, which I discovered
Competing
afterwards.
against each other. Excellent.
And then the finalists play with the decks that have been coloured in over the entirety of UK Games Expo. And the person on the left was second place last year. And it wasn't until afterwards that I realised it was a mother-daughter finals.
Nice. Lots of opportunity to practice at home then.
So there's me eating some radishes whilst they play with that. Thematic eating. And why don't we have
dogs? There'll be other things there.
There's me coming back with Jack and us getting back home and bananas and some of our loots.
Excellent. There's your press stand from the.
Yeah, that's my press preview. I had 2 tables, and for me, the press preview was really good. It kept going. I was constantly busy. How was your press preview?
It was okay. Well, it was actually slightly fraught because Mill and David, so half of our team, they only got there about 15 minutes before it, but because they were quite late, and they'd been delayed by traffic, and they were intending to be at Expo at about 3 o'clock, and they didn't get there till long past 5. So that soured the feeling a little bit, but it was fine once they were there. It was okay. We spoke to people. There were a couple of people who were TikTokers who I had some really good conversations with because TikTok is not something that really speaks to me. And the trouble is that I'm much better on Twitter than anything else.
Had you arranged anything beforehand? Had you arranged any media appointments?
We'd spoken to a few people we know, but very much it was people we already knew rather than reaching out to new people. And I think this, and that was, we had a lot of good intentions to do that, but I think it all fell apart a little bit because, basically because our Kickstarter fulfilled right before Expo. So I spent longer than I had anticipated sending out boxes. Plus we also got some extra orders, which was lovely.
Yes, I'm still waiting on boxes that should have arrived about 3 weeks ago, which is annoying. But
that's very annoying.
I did start technically fulfilling Kickstarters on Friday, but yeah, I've got Categorical. And I should be getting more of them delivered to the house, so that some of them are with Spiral Galaxy. But can I go through some of my 6 p.m. debriefs, which is the next photo that I'm at?
Yeah, go ahead.
So at 6 p.m, we always had this big group meeting, which I really enjoyed. We kind of chatted about stuff we liked within the stand, stuff that we liked out with the stand, and stuff that we felt could be doing better. And this is the suggestions from Friday, which involves we need to eat cake because there was a cake that had to be eaten before it went off. But in terms of stuff that actually I could learn from, like the 2 p.m. awareness, I didn't do a great job. I didn't do any social media really during the thing, which wasn't great. There was a suggestion that in future for the creatures, I should be marking them. And I think that for demo copies, I might actually add little numbers to all the cards. It's a weird thing to do. And Mike says the cake was very nice. Thanks. Yeah, it was a very, very nice cake. I agree.
Excellent. Nice cake is essential in these things.
I might actually number all my cards in future because unless the cards have names like they do in a game about selecting 7 cards, speedily searching for synergies, where in theory, if you'd opened up multiple, you could organize them alphabetically to see, okay, do I have any duplicates? But otherwise, if you've got 80 unique creatures, how are you going to organize that? You can't. And so that's a big struggle. So yeah, the other really nice idea was to keep the types of games together. So because I'm starting to diversify, a game about auctioning cubes after winning an auction to become the auctioneer is not a party game. It does have a high energy aspect to it. I think that it fits well in my stand. I think that people did really enjoy it. But if someone's coming to sit down for a quick 5-minute game, they will be disappointed. If you don't like games that take longer than 20 minutes, you might like most of my things, but you will not like that one. It's a game for people who want to think about numbers and have the chaos of an auction house. That's what it's delivering. And so, yes, I think that especially next year, as I start having more and more things, I'm probably going to have I'll probably have a similar size of stand, I guess, but definitely noisy things in one place, which might include creatures, speed games in one place, the LDEC games in one place, and slower games in one place, and colouring in another. And that felt, and whiteboard games. That's what we had at the end. LDEC, whiteboard, speed games, noisy games, and slow games. So there were 5 tables for the 5 different kinds of games that I've been making. And then also we had a few tables for the shop and balloons. And one table for just colouring in, which then got cleared whenever the 2 p.m. event was going to happen. And I feel like that was really good. The other interesting point was that I think it might have been Mike who said this, I can't remember. Someone who said, slow down on bringing folk in sometimes, because sometimes we've got already a lot of people. So if all the tables are full, sometimes we shouldn't be focusing on, hey, people, come in. Then it's just, oh, you need to wait a while to play this. Sometimes it's just a case of, hey, would you like a thing here? And Tom was really good at doing demos without even having a table. And we did do some like literally 30-second demos on the sales stand. But that's a really interesting thing.
Yes, when you've got a small game that can be easily demoed, we had, so I think we had, 3 or 4 people who bought a copy of Labyrinth just on the strength of a demo. But it's, but it is a real skill to be able to show what a game is, without necessarily having actually played it, because a lot of people do want to sit down and go, right, I want to actually play, the entire thing. So, these are other people's games. Excellent.
This is me walking around and seeing other people. I think on Saturday I actually had a bit of a wander and I was distracted for a while with a long conversation with Ian Brocklebank. And
he's very distracting, I can imagine.
And we've got Brett and Mike there.
Yeah.
And I can't. Oh yeah, this is what I gave to some people. And there's Dave Cousins who has no beard, and Dave is just like made all my. If it wasn't for Dave, then I wouldn't have been able to sign up Yogi because that's his. Dave was the person who introduced it to the other companies. Did you have a chance to wander around much of the rest of the halls?
We did. So we had a 4-meter stand and we had 4 people who could do it. Now, with that size stand, 3 is really the perfect number. 4 can sometimes be okay, but it was much more of a, 2 was fine. So yeah, we had opportunities to go around and see people. We had some really, so I had good conversations with people. I also went off and, bought some of my own stuff, which was lovely. Most notably Button Shy games. We also bought a very nice dice game there. Plus went to playtest. I got to playtest something, which was lovely. But we also got a chance to go and talk to some of the retailers and distributors. We had a conversation with Spiral Galaxy about what their offer was for distributing. We managed to sell 24 games to Zatu, which was great because it meant that they picked them up there and we didn't have to take them home.
Fantastic.
Which is always useful, and it's those kind of just going and having conversations with other stands that can be really useful.
I mean, I started a relationship with Spiral Galaxy, which was obviously starting something is always a little bit stressful. I think I had 2 meetings that I'd actually arranged, one for a very major company to come over and pitch stuff, for me to pitch stuff to them. And I also had one impromptu pitch, which went slightly better. And a quick hello, Yoda, thank you for jumping in. And I also had Tom and Pip come over from Shut Up and Sit Down. They played #Drawn Together game, and they also played a game about auctioning cubes after winning an auction to become the auctioneer. And they played 4 turns of that. And they also played half a game of Categorical. And on I think this was, this must have been the Saturday debrief, because they didn't really have one on Sunday.
Well, Sunday it's all done, so you're thinking about what you could do better the next year, but things change so much from year to year.
So I got told that I need to have a QR code on my catalogues. So it's an actual catalogue, not just a picture of a cat on a log.
Not just a cat on a log. I mean, that's clever, but yes, a QR code would be good as well.
I mean, it makes me slightly sad, but people did very much vote for it. So, yeah, I think I need to do that. And
you could have the QR code on a sign that the cat's holding, maybe. The cat's still still sitting on the log, but it's got like a little placard.
Jack suggested the QR code on the end of the log, maybe. I mean, it's just, I like the fact that it's this completely ridiculous thing, like slightly
Yeah.
nonsensical, and to me that slightly appeals more than having a functional thing. As soon as you bring
Oh,
in a function, it feels like it takes away from the whimsy slightly. I think that's my concern. But yeah, feel free to tell me why I'm an idiot. And we
whimsy is
also
fine, but I would suggest that they are possibly right on this occasion.
mm, um, there was a point which I think I'm going to share for the benefits of other folk, which is if you've got many games and some of your tables are full, don't worry about, like, at this point, I think I had 15, 16 games that I was selling.
Mm.
And you don't, whilst it's really nice to get people into the perfect game, sometimes some people are just, oh, I want to demo something. It's like, hey, would you like a quick demo? They're like, oh, sure. And then just take them to the table that happens to be empty, or to the
Mm.
table that happens to have space where someone can jump in. And sometimes even just saying, would you like a 5 minute demo or a very quick demo, then is enough to get them sitting down. And then
Mm.
once they've played a game, you can say, would you like to try something completely different? If you don't like speed games, but you like words games, we've got something for you. If you don't like either of those, but you like auction games, I've got something for you. If you don't like either of those, but you like the idea of giving compliments, or yeah, I've got something for you. And so it is about just getting people into the things. There was an idea of a flying kitten, which I have been working um, on a game about cosplay. I think that was Tor's idea. Yeah, people suggested stickering, as much as it's a nice way to get people to talk about the stand. And I did actually get a few people tagging me on Instagram just because they had in their hall um, a couple of stickers or a little card from me, which is actually really nice because
Mm-hmm.
they felt like, hey, this thing has enough value. I'm going to tag Bez to say I appreciated it. And, it does say stuff by Bez at the bottom. So
Mm-hmm.
I think I really want to continue giving away the stickers, but some people suggested, oh, what if the surreal creatures, you say, what noise would this make? And that's a really nice idea.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, talking about people communicating more, that's super important with other people on the stand. If you need a break, then tell other people. And yeah, there was a lot of chat asking people, would you like your adults to make noises? And you can see at the top, people really want a digital thing. I think the -2 was myself, or
Mm-hmm.
it might have been someone else. And yeah, it was, for me overall, it was just a lovely, lovely time. The
Mm.
people are, it's, I mean, a bit superfluous to say, but the people are absolutely the most important part. I mean, I
Mm.
wandered round this is on Sunday about 8 a.m.,
Yeah.
and where I actually had time to wander around, and I saw lots of cool stuff. I got to do a bit of drawing on this Cora Quest thing, and
Mm-hmm.
I got to see my friend Mark stand, even though I didn't see them because, it was 8 a.m.
Mm.
And did you take advantage of the early access to have any leisure time?
Yeah. No, I mean, so I did to a certain extent. We were there fairly early, but then we ended up having to do something both of the well, two of the early mornings. We ended up having to do something, I think. So one time, we had to take stuff back to our van, quite early in the morning, and the other time I can't remember what we were doing, but it was some other similar, having to carry something to somewhere else, which detracted a little from that. But it is very useful to go around and just see what everybody else has got out. Um,
Mm-mm-mm.
so I noticed that you were there. When we set up, you'd already set up, and your banners were there and everything. Because
On
we were there
Thursday, you mean?
on Thursday. Yeah, you were setting up very early, which I think was very wise.
I
Um,
mean, it's relative. I mean,
mm,
we got there for 12, and we did get the tables put together by 2 p.m., I think, but we had to wait a long time for stock. But
mm,
technically, all of us had access I think it was from 8 a.m. on Thursday. And I think it makes a lot more sense for myself, at least, to come in a little bit later, to have a bit of a lie-in, to have an
Yeah.
easier time on the Thursday, considering you will need to be absolutely ready for 9 a.m. every day thereafter.
Well, I mean, this was the thing, that I, so we got there. So we drove a van up on the Thursday, and by the time I got there, my feet were already starting to hurt, because I wasn't accustomed to driving, the van, because it's a rented van, and I drive about 4 times a year. We don't own a car ourselves, and we hire them, and so actually by the time I got there, the soles of my feet and all sort of the muscle that you have to pull your feet up with, at the top of my foot, was really aching. So so I really felt I was at a disadvantage starting the weekend with aching feet.
Mm.
But but it was fun, and I'm actually very glad that we got there fairly early. So so we were there. So our time when we were booked in was between 1:30 and 2:30. And we were there sort of bang on time.
Oh,
I was
for
very
the
glad
car. Yeah,
about
you
that.
need to
Yeah,
book
for
a
the
time
car.
for your car. And thank you
Yeah.
very much to people in Chris's Discord. It's been absolutely fantastic. Without that, I wouldn't have
Oh,
realized that I needed to book in a time for the car.
so much help there, because actually we would have booked
Oh,
in the
this is a
van
match, by
to
the
one
way.
of the other car park. We would have spent 150 quid extra, with your special parking for the van in car park 5, had
Mhm.
people not been going, oh no, you get a parking permit. So, I'm very glad about it because it saved us 150 quid. It's very useful.
I do apologize for, taking a
Mm.
while to get to some of these comments. Robert says, by the way, which Mark is this? Is this Mark Stockton Pitt?
Radical 8 Mark, I think.
Oh, yeah, that's Mark Stockton Pitt.
Mm-hmm.
So Robert says, I was helping my friend Mark demoing on his stand. I really enjoyed it. Lots of people will then buy a game based on the strength
Mm.
of a demo. I will agree. It's interesting. I think Natalia Pizarro asked in the Facebook group how much the demo influences people's relationship with a game. And we had all sorts of people, from those who said, yes, absolutely, if I don't like the demonstration, I will just forget about the game. And yes, it is Radical 8, Mark Stockton Pitt. And then I think that some people said, you know what, no, I've had demos from people who have been terrible, who've been rude, but if it's a good game, I will still buy the game. And if they're the nicest people, if it's not a game for me, I still won't buy it. But I think there is definitely skill in. I mean, I think it has to be a good game for people to buy it, but I think that you also have to give a good enough demo for people to understand that it's a good game. Do you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
don't think that I mean, yeah, when I say I don't think I could sell a really terrible game, I think I could probably sell a few copies of it if I made a game that I could absolutely deceive people and say, because Graham came over and said, oh, you told me that this was a good game on Facebook. You said that you thought I would buy this. I'm willing to buy it just based on the strength of you telling me. But I did encourage Graham to sit down for a demo. The truth is, because at that time the table was empty. And
Yeah.
then Graham sat down and played it. So I was like, wow, this is really good. I'm really glad you told me about this. And so there is a bit of reputation that I have. And so it's because I've made other games that Graham's enjoyed that Graham's willing to listen to me. But at the same time, if people don't already know me, they have to understand what kind of game it is. If you don't have a one sentence title that tells you exactly what the game is, like my games do,
Yeah.
then you kind of need to be able to explain the rules so that people understand what the rules are. You need to be able to explain who would like it and who would not like it. Like for one of my latest games, I would say, okay, do you like the stress of not knowing exactly how much something is worth? Do you like the idea of thinking, okay, I'm not only going to pay 7 for this, but do I want to give my friend 7 money? Do you like the stress of paying for the privilege of being an auctioneer, and then sometimes you pay 5 and then you manage to sell it for 12 and make an amazing profit, and sometimes you pay 7 and then you sell it for 5 and then you're just gutted and you think, oh, these and then people would either say, you know what, actually I don't like auction games, in which case great, it's not for you, or yes, that sounds brilliant, in which case perfect.
Being able to accurately communicate to your audience whether they are part of the audience who likes that game, that's a really useful skill. And I think it does depend on the game as well, because some games you can demonstrate a turn and people get it immediately. And sometimes that has to do with how complicated the game is, but sometimes it also has to do with whether it's using mechanics which are currently commonly known. Because there may well be mechanics, there may well be lots of mechanics which people used, an awful lot, 20 years ago or 100 years ago. You could play a game which was very similar to canasta or whist or whatever, and actually there would be possibly a far greater proportion of the population 100 years ago would understand what that meant than today.
Yes.
If that makes sense. So, so it's something to do with, whether the mechanics are currently common knowledge.
100%.
Some games you can.
And you can't assume that it's current knowledge, because I had a surprising number of people where I said, do you like party games? My 3 questions, which covered the breadth of my games, was, do you like party games? Do you like word games? Do you like auction games? And a surprising number of people said, I've never played an auction game. And then I would have to say, well, imagine an auction house where someone's saying, and my game is very much epitomizing that chaos and energy of an auction house, I believe, better than any other. I mean, I know that's pretty biased and maybe egocentric, but I am very proud of that one game. And then I would say, well, it's about this. It's about struggling to work out how much something is worth. It's when people say, oh, do I hear 10? Do I hear 11? Do I hear 12? Oh, yes. Do I hear 12 from the person in the corner? It's that kind of thing. And if you like that energy of maybe rushing away, sometimes you spend a bit too much, sometimes you get a good deal. But we take it for granted that people understand all these things, but we need to get away from that and move towards terms that anyone can understand. I pitched a game to Pegasus Spiel, and I said it's a mixture of bag building, action, programming. It's got a real-time aspect, but then you've got a bit of combat in the middle. But if I was demoing it, I would not describe it that way. I would not use those technical terms of bag building. I don't know how I would say, okay, it's got this fast-paced bit where you're pulling stuff out of a bag, and then you've got to think about what you're about to do, and then once you've decided, then you do your things on essential boards, and you try to deal damage to each other and punch each other the most you can, and there's even telekinesis. I might throw in that little bit, kind of, because I believe it's a skill that I'm good at, but it's also a skill because I've played the game so many times. I want to address... Firstly, Flying Duck Dragon was another thing for the stand. I'm going to show some pictures from Monday with lots of graffiti. And Robert says, I did find I got some demos on Friday morning where the demoers appeared not to know the rules yet, which surprised me. I totally understand that, because some games just aren't available. I got some games literally on Friday morning, which was rubbish. But... yeah, I tried my best to teach them.
Hopefully they will have learnt them by Friday lunchtime, though.
And Robert says, I think we often forget how many mechanics and terms are totally new to people. I taught Abandon All Artichokes at one of Anne Jones's events. The phrase place cards face up on discard pile was completely new to them.
Now that's interesting. That speaks of somebody who hasn't played, card games at all. And sometimes it just has to do with whether they've played those games. Because sometimes things like auction mechanics, hey, that looks like fun. Things like auction mechanics, quite often people have played them, but in heavier Euro games, or...
And sometimes they haven't. Some of these people are are just new to the world of board games.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, and it's really interesting. We had a couple of people who were very new to board games, and it was really interesting trying to find the language to explain, yes, you can, yes, when you play a card, you discard it, and that's not always the case, but it's often the case in a game, that when you play it, it's gone forever. And so, yeah, just trying to get that knowledge out there, I suppose. Where's the graffiti from? Is this near the hostel?
Yes, this is near the hostel, where we were staying, Birmingham Central Backpackers. And yeah, it has been a tradition to use this for quite a few years now, but I am going to send a survey out to folk to ask what they feel about the things, because it is a lot cheaper than getting a hotel. And I know Josie said that we could get something cheaper, but it turned out that Josie was suggesting skipping the Wednesday, and which slightly saddened me, because I think that whilst yes, it's true that we didn't do that much on Thursday morning, I think that having that meal on Wednesday was an important part of the week for me. Like, people getting to know each other, people being comfortable and understanding, hey, this is a real person that you can ask for help, if you know what I mean, and getting familiar with each other, and then also having a nice start to the weekend. And it also means that you're not traveling in and then setting up on the same day, which would be a lot.
We stayed at the Travel Lodge, which was at the end of one of the shuttle bus routes, the free shuttle buses from the airport, and I definitely appreciated knowing that it was only a shuttle bus away. For me, the physical location was far better. But we were only staying Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights. So we arrived on Thursday morning and we left on Sunday evening.
I mean, I think for me, if I didn't have the Monday, I mean, it's an interesting one, because it was suggested to me that I need to think more about the business. And to some degree, there's a question of, if it's about the business, is it worth me even being there? Because it wasn't, I did make a loss by being there, but emotionally, it was lovely. I really enjoyed it. And also, there's value in having the pitches with the people, like, I got to pitch with Pegasus that I mentioned before. I got to see a couple of other folk, and it's possible
that looks like fun. Are they playing?
Yeah, there
with
were
balls,
these
or
random balls on
park bench?
slots. It was like a grown-up toy that they'd put on the street for some weird reason.
Nice. I like that a lot.
And also, if I move forward, oh no, I don't have I was going to say there's a photo of where red was the only color that was totally intact.
Oh wow.
But there's something to be said for the emotional payoff, because frankly, I would not be doing this if it was just about, can I make money from this? If it was, yeah, and I don't know, it's a difficult question of, can I ask, how was it in terms of money for you?
We made a profit, not a huge profit, but we made a profit. I mean, basically, Friday paid for the cost of the stand, and Saturday paid for the hotel rooms and the van. We were fortunate that we were only paying for 2 hotel rooms because we're 2 couples. So that did cost, keep costs down. And then Sunday essentially was actually profit. And then we also managed to sell 24 games at the wholesale price to Zatu, which was very nice. So that added another £400 onto the the profit, which was very nice indeed. Yeah, absolutely. I was very pleased with that. Mill did that. All credit to Mill for going out and being very good talking to retailers.
So it was Mill who established those relationships with the retailers and with Zatu?
Mill is better at establishing relationships with retailers. We've got to play to our strengths here. I think so I'm better at the organising and and getting all the stuff there and booking the stuff. But Mill is better at the communication with other organisations generally. But yes, it was. This is the first time that we've made a profit from any from any convention at all. From anywhere where we've bought a stand. This is the first time that we've made a profit. I mean, this is the first time we've had a full game to sell. We've sold greetings cards and at an aircon last year. We came close. We almost broke even. Because of the greetings cards and because of the roll and colours that we sold, and we sold a few Disarm the Bases. But this is the first time we've actually been in the black, which is a very nice feeling. But the value of it is not just from whether you make money or not. The value is from whether you make other connections which allow you to make money. When we were running a Kickstarter,
got to capitalise on them, and that's the thing.
Absolutely.
Like, I've had people message me since Aircon saying, "Hey, I quite fancy buying your game. Can I buy it from your shop?" And I've been saying, "Oh, I'll sort it out in some number of weeks." And this is the kind of thing where, talking about playing to your strengths, if you are just one person, yes, I know that I've got many other helpers for the weekend or even for a week, but having someone who's actually a proper part of the company is very different. And honestly, I'm envious of people with relatively big teams of 2 or 3 people. And I know that sounds like a weird thing to say, but 2 or 3 people is double or triple the size of one person. And
absolutely.
I'm privileged in that I don't have any dependents and I'm able to do this. But so when I went to Dicini, I always make a tiny profit from that. Like, I go there, I sell a lot. It's basically like a market, but also I don't pay for anyone else to stay anywhere. I only stay there one night, and then I normally have a relatively nice meal. I went out, I think, with 2, 3 people. I can't remember. I think it was 3 of us total. Myself, Jess, and Josie. And then we went out to a thing. I treated us to dinner, and I think I basically just broke even after having a very nice dinner, which was good. But UK Games Expo, I think I had about £4,000 in sales gross. And so let's say net, that was about £3,000. I spent about £2,000 on the accommodation, because I paid for 12 people to have accommodation. I spent probably about 1,000 and a bit on the stand itself and the furniture. I spent about maybe £500 on food, and there will be other bits like, okay, I'm paying obviously for people coming in each day and Josie's thing. So it probably cost me about £1,000 to be there. So as a business, is it worth that to me? And it's really, really hard to work out what the value of marketing is. Is that going to... I have honestly no idea. I don't think there's any way you could say for sure. I mean...
Yeah, it's really difficult to work out when you're doing something like just being present. That's a form of advertising. When you're there and you're talking to people, there is a definite value to it, but it's hard to put a measurable amount on it. And I think that supposing you then bring in more money later, then you can say, oh, right, that has had an effect. But it can be really difficult to point to it and say, right, me being present at that event meant that X and Y and Z happened later. Because often it's 2 or 3 events that causes X and Y to happen, and you can't really say what was the main catalyst there.
I've got this kind of joke, although it's truth, where I say there's 3 parts to making a game. You've got the rules design, you've got the writing, and you've got the art, illustration. And that's one part. And then the second part, the other 2 parts, one of them is the marketing and making people know about it and making sure that the audience of the game wants to know it. But then the third part is making it available. And the key thing for me is I think that I've managed to do, well, the games have been printed, so they are done. But at the same time, I feel like I need to, and I've done marketing at UK Games Expo, but I feel like I could have done more marketing besides it, like getting those photos. I've got photos from last year that I've not shared publicly from Nick Humberston, which is a big waste. And getting those things, telling people during the event, hey, I'm here. And but then the most important thing that I'm dropping the ball on is making those games available, because if someone wants to buy a game about auctioning cubes after winning an auction to become the auctioneer, there's no way for you to buy it right now. And that's not great.
Yeah. Well, the first step is recognizing what bits you're dropping the ball on, you know, because I know that I'm dropping the ball about, you know, getting Labyrinth, you know, talking to bookshops and getting it into bookshops, you know, and Mill and I have, you know, said, yeah, we should do this,
But
we should
there's
do
still
that, and
people will buy it.
Yeah.
I mean, you've
true.
already got, people can still go to your website and buy it, I think.
They can indeed. In fact, we've had 5 orders since Expo has finished.
That's amazing.
2 of them, I think, were just chance, you know, because 2 of them are from people in the States, you know, and I think it was just, you know, we've got it on Etsy, but we've also got it on, so we've got it on SumUp. So we use SumUp, and, you know, you can just have a link to an online store. So our website sends people direct to SumUp. But it was, but the people on Etsy, I think that's not linked to Games Expo at all. That's just people finding it on there. Several weeks ago, we had the Washington Post put us in their book club newsletter, which was lovely, and we got almost 50 orders through that alone, which has pushed us up the Etsy chart, you know, basically. Yeah, so we put the Etsy link in there so that then, you know, people would go to Etsy, because that would, you know, give us a bit more marketing through Etsy, which seems to have worked, because we've now replaced that link with the SumUp link, and people are still buying on Etsy every now and again.
But yeah,
I'm not sure how this works.
Like, for all your talk of I should get it into bookshops, you have done at least the bare minimum of all 3 of those things. Whereas, I need to get better at, you know, making the game something that people can actually buy somehow. But let's go back to Brilliant Things, and let's, in conclusion, if you had to say brilliant thing, it's a little thing which is brilliant, what would be your top X, by which I mean top whatever number you feel is appropriate, brilliant things from UK Games Expo, your highlights?
I would actually say the playtest zone is a highlight. I really like going and seeing things that are halfway through being developed. And so I would say that the fact that people can, you know, book in a slot with the playtest zone, and there are people there who have got it all organised. They've got nice forms for feedback. You know, I went and playtested a friend's game, which was a good game, had to do with dice, and you were rolling them across a board, and it was excellent. You know, and I just really like the fact that the playtest zone exists. So that's my choice. Brilliant thing, playtest zone.
And I will give a shout out to my own 2 p.m. events, having something where people are coming for it, and I get to do a bit of corralling, and that's it. Robert says, I probably spent at least a few hours a day in the playtest zone. Mike says, making new friends, so many great people.
Yeah.
And at this point, as always, thank you everyone for commenting, ask questions, following, liking, following. If there's anything that you want to type into the YouTube, I will pass that on to Jess, and I reply to everything I get. So the one thing I would like to say is, Jess, what is something you would like to ask us as the question of the day? Question of the day. Here's a little question before we go on our way. Question of the day.
Whew. That's a really difficult one. I can't think of one at the moment. I suppose.
Okay, let me ask everyone.
You ask everybody.
What do you think would be a cool cosplay? Like, do you think, and like, there's a balance to be done between when someone asked in a thing, what's your dream cosplay? And I asked them, like, what limitations do I have? And then they said, oh, do I have any limitations on the architecture or the engineering? And they said, oh, there's absolutely no limitations. And I said, well, my dream cosplay would be a fully functioning mech suit, which is like the size of a planet. I think that would be really cool. I mean, I would kind of have to be far away from the convention, but everyone would be able to see me. I would be kind of flying around on top like a satellite, and that's my dream cosplay.
I mean, that's quite a dream, I suppose.
I mean, it is very expensive, and I don't think that will happen in reality. But
during Expo itself, then we did express a little bit of disappointment that we hadn't actually thought or planned ahead in order to bring some costumes, because we could have easily dressed up, like characters from Library Labyrinth. Mill has a Roman helmet somewhere, which she says is very heavy. I think next time I'm going as Ada Lovelace. That's what I should do, because actually people would have, lots of people would recognize Ada Lovelace, or perhaps not immediately, but they'd immediately, there'd be some recognition that, supposing you told them, who she was, there'd be some recognition. Okay, right. It would clearly, direct people back to Library Labyrinth. Oh, yeah, I'll go as Ada Lovelace next time.
It's interesting because you want there to be a little bit of practicality, much as it might be really cool to be having this giant robot suit. I mean, you might also want to interact with people, so it is nice to actually be able to sit down. And now over to you. What are you up to? You can share possibly if you want to. The one thing that I definitely want to do is I am committing right now to going back to Latin dancing. It starts at the start of every month, and I think I can be around. I might be missing next week, potentially, depends how flights are. I should also sort out my travel to Belfast, I think is where I'm going. I should double check. Mike, am I going to Belfast? Please let me know. But yes, I'm taking a relatively easy day, and I'm definitely going dancing. That's something I'm doing. Is there anything you want to share? Something that you're looking forward to? Something you need to do? And Mike says, yes, it is Belfast. That is where the airport is. And so, what are you up to?
Right now, I am going to go off to a boxing lesson, which is an effort to keep fit. I am not very good at boxing. I don't have any gloves. But plus, it involves a lot of skipping first in order to warm you up. And it turns out I'm rubbish at skipping as well. I don't know how one can be rubbish at skipping, but I'm rubbish at skipping. So...
There's a lot of coordination in that.
Oh, jumping with both feet off the ground at the same time? Whew, that's difficult, it turns out.
Recap and wrap up before we finish up. So we started off talking about other games that I'd played recently, like Unmatched, and I didn't even mention Last Bug Standing in the Circle of Doom, and what else was, I can't remember, but there was Sound Delicious and Jumanji and Ellie Dix's game. We talked about the joy of going, and the reason that we go is to sell stuff. We talked about the differentiation between UK Games Expo and other international conventions. We talked about how, yes, there's 50,000 people, if you count people going on different days as different people, which is but there's
2,000 unique people, I think.
that's still a
yeah.
really big number. 32,000 is a big number. And we talked about having friendly waves from afar, just seeing people. We talked about you making like some profits and working with two people where Mill is able to actually get stuff done. We talked about my slight despondence and like but spending money, and sometimes it is about the whimsy. And I really need to make games available is for people to purchase. And yeah, beyond that, I think it was just that. Yeah, Jess is off. We're both doing fitness in our own ways. Jess going to boxing, and me tonight going to some dancing. So to everyone out there, lots of love. And do you have anything left to say, Jess?
No, just hope to see you at the next convention, whenever it is.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. My next convention, I believe, is QCon, then Fantasy Forest, then my leaving emigration party, then Tabletop Scotland, and then I will be slowly going away from the UK. If you want to check me out, I am all the places there. And if you want to check out Jess, then Jess is Descent Games, all of the places there.
Descent Games, find me on Twitter. You can also search for Library Labyrinth, which is a good place to find me online. But Descent Games is where I am normally. Excellent.
So to everyone out there, have a good day yourselves. And as always, bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye, bye.
Bye.